tired. Day to day, I make lies. I'm not hungry. I'm fine. But day to day, sadness grows inside. My motivation's shrinking. Day to day, constant headaches. Seconds get dizzy. Day to day, I hide from people and in the need.
Depression and anxiety. What do you actually know about these disorders?
Depression is a mental condition characterized by feelings of severe hopelessness and unhappiness, typically also with feelings of inadequacy and guilt, and is often accompanied by lack of energy and disturbance of appetite and sleep.
There are a lot of myths associated with depression, such as, depression is just being sad or having a case of the blues. But what some individuals don't realize is that depression affects every part of someone's life. It's not the same as simply being sad about something. It's much more serious and can be detrimental to someone's health and wellness. People with depression can sometimes feel so fatigued that they cannot get out of bed. Depression is not just having a case of the blues, and it shouldn't be treated as one either. Another myth is that depression is just something that you're kind of stuck with. Even though there's no official medical test for depression, there is still effective clinical help available. Medication is available to help, but there are also other options, such as therapy or counseling. And those are just two ways to avoid using medication while getting the help that you need. Because waiting it out sometimes just isn't an option. And then finally, like I said before, there is no medical test to diagnose depression. All a doctor can really do for you is test for other medical conditions that have depressive symptoms. There is no true depression test.
There are actually many more myths about depression that people should get a better understanding of. One of which is that only girls get depressed. This is one that irks me a lot because there are many guys out there that get depressed. Just because girls are more likely to get depression does not mean that guys don't. Guys often have different symptoms, which is why it's often overlooked by everyone in society. And the reason why it's overlooked is because men are often afraid to appear less masculine, strong, and stable. This makes it actually more dangerous because they might not seek help. They might look to drugs and alcohol for help, and it could often, if it escalates further enough, it might even reach suicide, which is not good. Another one is that depression is not serious. It's actually very serious. Clinical depression is an illness that affects every part of someone's life. People will be physically in pain, they'll have emotional pain, they'll withdraw from friends, get in fights easier, they'll take unnecessary risks. Depression can affect a person's future in such a negative way. Another one is that talking about depression is bad and it makes it worse. And it's actually the opposite of that. Because we treat depression so carefully, it's uncomfortable to talk about it first. It creates a stigma on depression that if we talk about it, it'll make it worse. But talking about it and being open to people that are depressed will encourage them to seek help and to talk to professionals to get the help that they need. And talking about it will open up everyone's mind and encourage other people to pay attention to those around them and make sure that everyone with depression does get the help that they need.
A quick wrap up on myths about depression is that depressed people are lazy or weak. It's not always that depressed people are lazy or weak. It's not that they can help how they feel. And motivation is what fuels us. When we don't have it, it's meant we're incapable of achieving simple everyday tasks. with struggling through school, family life, and any other priorities that we may have to achieve, it's no wonder that kids can get depressed. Sometimes kids can get depressed even more than some adults. The best cure for depression is antidepressant medication. This is not always the case. Some people who take antidepressants could even become worse with taking them. If it works for you, sure, go ahead and take it. But if it doesn't, it's probably the best idea to just find another cure for it.
Dr. Bass, a health professional, helped develop this list of things not to say to someone with depression. And she also helped come up with some things that you could say instead, which can help them. One thing is, what do you have to be depressed about? This is like trying to argue someone out of being injured, a normal injury. You cannot argue someone out of being depressed. You could try something saying, you can try saying something instead like, I'm sorry you're feeling so bad, what can I do to help? Another thing is that it's all in your head. Suggesting that depression is imagined is neither accurate or constructive. Although it can't be seen from the outside, it's still a medical condition that can't be thought or wished away. Try saying something like, you should see someone to see what this is. That'll encourage them to seek help and to help them understand, it could help them understand what actually is affecting them in such a negative way. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. There's a huge difference between feeling sorry for yourself and struggling with depression. Although these might come hand in hand sometimes, it has to be taken much more seriously than that. Telling someone that they should just stop feeling sorry for themselves belittles them and it'll make them feel worse. It'd be much more helpful if you said something like, I can see that you're struggling. It makes me upset. What can I do to help? Well, everyone gets sad sometimes. Sadness is very different than depression because depression is not a choice, and when it happens, it will affect everyone and anyone differently. Even comparing them to someone else with depression is not a good idea because of that. And it would be much more helpful if you said something like, you seem to be having a difficult time, and I would just like you to know that I'm here. Being there for someone will help them immensely.
According to the Depression Alliance, there are many things that you can do for someone with depression. Simple things that you know can help them immensely. One of those things that you can do is just simply be there for them. Just keep in touch, don't be afraid to send them a text, let them know you're there for them, ask them how they're doing, just let them know you care. I mean, that alone is very valuable. And another thing you want to do is encourage them to seek help. It's important to consider, how overwhelming it must feel to be faced with, lots of new information and medications and appointments, treatments. If you encourage them along the way, this can help out quite a bit. And of course, accept them, for who they are. And when you want to help, do it without judgment. Try to understand what's going on in their lives before you just jump in blindly trying to help them. Be ready to listen and don't take it personally if they don't want to open up to you. Finally, having patience and understanding will always go a long way in the healing process. Just stay in touch, let them know you're there for them, be patient. These simple things can help out immensely.
Don't panic. Where your heart feels like it's getting squeezed as it falls down into your stomach, the weight of the world is depending on it for support. Innocent tears turn into cries of help. For your fear your life may be running out tonight. You feel like you're all alone, like you could scream out at the top of your lungs, but no one would hear. Or maybe they did, but they have better things to focus their time on. You're drowning in a tsunami of thoughts that rapidly crash into your mind. You begin to helplessly panic as you make the journey to try and swim to the surface to catch your breath, to get a grip of reality. You can't let them know you're slowly crumbling into a pile of hopelessness. Pick yourself off the ground, finish the performance with a promising smile. They can't know that your mind will be visiting your tainted mind once more tonight. Who have I become? I used to wear a smile as if it was the only thing I've ever known. I used to sing in the shower as if nothing could ever harm me. For I was invincible. Is this all there is to life? To relive every dark memory my past has to offer, you try to recover from the damage that has been done. You try to think positively, but with every positive thought comes 2 times the amount of negative ones, waiting to break away the shell that you built for yourself in order to protect your heart.
By definition, anxiety is a nervous disorder that is characterized by a state of excessive uneasiness and apprehension, typically with compulsive behavior or panic attacks.
There are also some myths that we found about anxiety that should be debunked. One is that anxiety disorders are not very common. 18% of American adults, that's nearly 1 in 5, experience some type of anxiety disorder in any given year, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. And another myth about anxiety is that anxiety will get better over time if you just wait it out. A lot of people with anxiety disorders wait about 10 years to seek help, says psychologist Dr. Hajek. Those who are able to continue with a normal everyday life and function well enough to delay getting help hope that anxiety will get better on its own. But the reality is that this rarely happens. In fact, your situation, if you wait it out, could get worse over time. And about 60% of people with anxiety disorders also have some degree of depression, which also usually requires treatment. The two are often paired together.
More myths about anxiety is that a panic attack can make you lose control or pass out. Most of the time, if someone's having a panic attack, it's very common that you won't even know about it. I mean, the most that can happen in some cases is that you can leave the room to kind of privately have your own little moment, but most of the time, a lot of people can't even realize that you're even having it. People with anxiety could just snap out of it if they really wanted to. If it was as simple as snapping out of it, don't you think more people would have less chance of having a case of anxiety? I mean, most people don't want to have anxiety.
Saying that someone should avoid situations that cause stress doesn't really make any sense to me. How does one avoid situations that cause stress? If we could choose between encountering stressful situations and not, I think that we would choose to not encounter them. And some say that anxiety isn't a real illness. Feeling a little anxious about something is normal. However, an anxiety disorder is a whole different story. It's an extreme form of anxiety and a real illness that should be taken seriously, like a real illness.
There's also some things that you should not say to someone with anxiety. According to Scott Bay, another clinical psychologist, well, it usually comes from a heartfelt place. A lack of understanding, like the following statements, can make working through a panic attack very difficult and challenging. One is actually calm down. Although this may seem like it might actually help, when a person seems anxious over nothing, telling them to calm down is probably the worst thing you can do. Being calm is the first thing an anxious person wants, but the last thing that they can do. Instead, you should offer to do something with this person and take their mind off of whatever is causing them to be anxious. This will calm them down because they'll be distracted. Another thing is that I'm not stressed. I'm stressed too. Although anxiety can work as a stressor, stress is not the same as anxiety. The main difference is that anxiety causes stress over thoughts most of the time, while stress is created by actual situations. And trying to relate and compare yourself to an anxious person can elevate their feelings and rub them in the wrong way. A better technique to make them feel better would be trying to get them to talk to you and reason out their thoughts. Another one is that there's always someone worse off than you. Someone else having problems does not make your problems disappear. By belittling anyone, you'll just make them feel worse. So you should try to say something like, "I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. How can I help you?" It'll help them much more.
Things that you can do for someone with anxiety is be there for them. You being around them is a bigger help than you realize. In fact, they may not even realize it either. The time spent with someone is time that makes it harder to think about their anxieties, and that time really does make a difference. Encourage them to talk. It's very important that they know that you're there to lend them an ear, and that you aren't going to judge them or change the way you think or feel about them based on anything they say, even if they say the same fear over and over again. Make them feel normal. You can do this by simply being yourself. You don't need to change who you are, and the person with anxiety doesn't want you to change either. The fact that you're looking for what you can do to help this person with anxiety proves that you're a good influence in their life. Be positive, have fun, and be the person that your friends or family members love. Be forgiving. Anxiety can make people quicker or irrational, and that is not in the control of the person with anxiety. You should try your best to be forgiving and let them know that you understand, and that even if it's not fair, you're not going to quit the friendship because of it. Pay attention to them. When you're talking to them, or when you are talking to you, listen. It will help them knowing that someone cares enough to listen. You can also pay attention to what they're doing. If they are doing better or have the courage to do something out of their comfort zone, it would be extremely helpful to praise them for what they've done.
With an anxiety disorder, happiness is a hardship. Always anticipating disaster, success is obstructed. You're always concerned about things like money, family, school, everything. The worry cycle continues and it feels like it's never going to end. Getting through the day is like hiking the tallest mountain. You can't function socially, you can't focus in school, grades begin to suffer. Anxiety and anxiety disorders are very underrated problems. They can make you or break you sometimes. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, 6.8 people are affected by these disorders. Some of those individuals are right here in our high school. They may be generalized anxiety disorders, but it's important to not overgeneralize. Everyone has a different story, everyone has their own demons, but we're all human, so we should all treat each other like human.
This is very important to do. You have to be careful what you say and do. You have to pay attention to those around you and think about what you're going to say. Because when you say something, you don't know who you could be affecting around you. And one of the biggest things that I'm referring to is the suicide jokes. Because these jokes are very powerful and they could affect so many people. I'd like to welcome Casey to the stage to read a poem she wrote.
Kill myself, Jeff. You would think that after all the news stories, after all the past stories written on so many bodies, people would understand. Stop. OMG, just tripped up the stairs. BRB, killing myself. OMG, I hate you. Go kill yourself. Because while you're joking, making a comedy skit of someone else's past, there stands that person on the ledge, contemplating everything. And you're there, throwing around an action that too many are attempting. Oh, you don't want to go to school? Go ahead. Put those fingers to your head and load your gun with ignorance, and pull that trigger. Well, that boy held a gun in his hand, loaded with dread, because he didn't want to live. And we all love that teacher pretending to go through the motions. Oh, how funny it is. You tied a noose of air, suffocating yourself with life because your in-laws are coming tomorrow. Hey, teacher, look at your students' faces. That one girl in your class has that noose carefully swaying from her ceiling, staring at the permanent end, dripping with her new reality. How about that kid you told to go take those pills? Unknowing, he stood there only the night before, shaking with that bottle of pills. If only they knew. Go kill yourself already. People threw around weapons. Oh, honey, don't you know I'm trying?
I would now like to welcome Adam to the stage on his information about depression and family.
Good. Hey, many of you already probably know me, but for those that don't, my name is Adam, and I'm here to tell you my personal story about my struggle with depression. I'd like to start off by asking, how many people here know somebody personally that struggled with depression? All right. That's a good start. From an early age in my life, I never really had a great sense of family. My mom worked a lot, my dad worked nights, so anytime I was home, he wasn't, and my brother's about 5 years older than me, which really means we didn't talk outside of him punching me in the face. So, my social skills are abysmal, which means I never really had many friends. And that's not a very good combination for somebody that's already predisposed to some situation like I am, where one day I decided it would be a good idea because I didn't really want to live. And it happened my 10th year of high school, and I thought to myself, yeah, this sucks, and I really don't want to do this, so bye. And I walked home, and on the way I saw a pretty good-sized truck, about a semi-trailer coming, and I thought to myself, yeah, this'll do. And I put one foot across the white line, and I froze. And the reason I froze is because it was about a week after Peace Day, which many people think is a joke, but I mean, I like it. And that was because I had it with Mrs. Michelle Markham, who doesn't work anymore here, because she went to Notre Dame, she went to college. But I stopped because she told the story about how she had had 2 students before that had killed themselves. And she had looked me dead in the eye, and she had tears in her eyes, and she had said, I still remember exactly where they sat. And it killed me, metaphorically speaking, because I'm still here. And with that, I just stopped. And I remember laughing about something with Greg and Colin, who were 2 of my oldest friends. And I just walked home. There was no thoughts of mom or dad or brother. There was only thoughts of the people that I felt mattered the most to me. And so I'm here to tell you about them a little bit. I have 3 older brothers and 1 younger sister. Harrison, Greg, and Colin I met in high school, which ironically enough, none of them really liked me the whole time. Colin was all right. Greg thought I was odd. Harrison was actually bullied me in high school, which I think is funny. And my little sister Brianna also thought I was ridiculous and annoying. And so I never really had friends, and then I met all of them, and I grew on them. As my one friend said, I went fungus. But then she had to explain that not all funguses are bad. So I was like, all right, I'll live with that. I'll take it. And so many of you are probably thinking, why do I care? Why does this matter? You didn't have friends. Get over yourself. Well, I'm here to try to explain what it's like to live every life as a walking dead man and being hollow inside, because to this day, I still am. This is a poem I wrote entitled Questions. Who decides what is a choice and what isn't? Who decides to be terrible to someone because they're different? Who decides happiness is a choice? Who decides to go through it? You don't have to ask who because you know who it is, but you ignore them. What do you mean I sound sick? What do you mean I look down? What do you mean I feel cold? What are you worried about? I'm fine. I'm just tired. It's all right. When does our clock run out? When does death come to claim us? When does the failed father who's lost custody of his kids decide he's done? When does the brother join his little sister because she too is quiet? When do we find a way to shatter our vessel? Where did those cuts on your wrist come from? Where did those huge gashes on your forearm come from? Where did those burns on your chest come from? Where did those bruises on your head come from? Where did you go? Why should a mother ever walk in and see her baby girl hanging from the ceiling? Why should a father ever find his beloved son with his own throat cut? Why should a friend ever find their best friend in the garage with the engine running? Why is considered the biggest question of all. And a lot of people ask, why are we here? But some of us ask, why aren't you here? I'm not going to tell you what that means. I'm going to let you just stew in that. Because if I tell you what it's about, then it loses its value. Because it's poetry, and poetry is about your interpretation of life, what you grasp out of it. If you don't want to grasp anything out of it, forget it. It's all right. I'm not going to be offended. Not everybody likes it. But I would ask you to try and take something away from that. So you might still not understand, and that's a good thing in my eyes, because that means you never had to live every day with the hell of understanding that, man, my life kind of sucks to me. I think I'd like to just end it. Family isn't always blood, and a lot of people think it is, but I'm here to tell you that it's not. Because your body will always have all of the blood you ever need for the rest of your life, but you're always going to need some water. Family isn't always blood, because it's the people in your life who want you and theirs. The ones who accept you for who you are, and the ones who would do anything to see you smile, no matter what. The original speaker of that is unknown, but I subscribe to that. And the reason is because when we honestly ask ourselves which person in our lives means the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving us advice, solutions, or cures, have instead chosen to rather share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. Henry Nouwen said that. To me, family manifests itself as nature. I view my family as a forest. And the reason I try to take care of it, and the reason that I tell all of my friends that I love them at least once a week, is because things happen, right? How many people here have ever suddenly lost somebody and you didn't expect it? How many of you told them you loved them within the past few days from when it happened? That's what you got to do all the time, because you don't know when it's going to happen. And that's why I try to take care of our forest, because we're all just rocks, rivers, trees, and animals in it. But even if one single thing is missing from a forest, it will never be the same again. And the reason I view it as a forest is because at one point in my life I tried to burn it all down. But in a way, I guess it's a good thing that I did, because I'm an idiot and I didn't pay attention to bio and never really realized forests always grows better after everything just burns down. And with that, I've got something that I can finally call my own. So, take what you will. That's my view of it. And are we accepting questions at this time? Is that it? Yes. I'm accepting personal questions. I'm not sure if Casey is. She is. We're all open to questions. You can ask whatever you would like. If something is a little too much, we might say something. But other than that, feel free. Anything is go. Any questions? Not everybody at once.
Nice speech, man.
Thank you. Is that Tim?
No.
Thanks, Putney.
Yeah, there you go.
No questions, really. It's usually a pretty interesting topic. Usually it's a little
If you had an inkling that a friend is depressed, how would you bring up the situation without hurting them or causing the situation to worsen? Or scare them?
That's a tough one. Personally, I would probably, because I'm kind of a fool, I would probably walk to their house or wherever they were at, because I understand the severity and sometimes the immediate, the intense need to be there at that exact moment. Because all of my family does. 2 of my brothers have depression. One of them we're not sure about because he refused to get therapy because he always turned it around on his doctor because it's like that. And my sister has anxiety, so I understand sometimes the immediate, right at this moment, hey, I'm kind of freaking out and dying inside, I need something. And so my advice would probably be, you don't even have to say anything. You just have to listen to what they have to say. And if they don't have anything to say, then just sit in the silence, give them a hug, and just sit there.
Another thing that I would do would be to sit them down in like a personal setting and ask them if they are okay, and if they don't feel like talking to you, I would make sure to tell them that you are there for them if they do need someone to talk to, and just always be open to listening to them. And don't force it. Yeah,
You don't, of course, that's a bad way to do it. Any other questions? What about the strapping older gentleman in the back with the notepad and the pen? Nothing?
Just turn to look at him.